Welcome to The Fiber, brought to you by Live Oak Fiber, where we weave together the stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and changemakers who are the very fabric of their communities. Join us as we spotlight those who embody the spirit of connection, resilience, and progress. Hey everyone, Garrett here with Live Oak Fiber. I'm joined today by our co-host and CRO of Live Oak Fiber, Steve Smith, and our glorious guest, David Schmidt, who is the business manager at BluePoint Financial. David, first off, thank you so much for joining us today. Go ahead and give us a quick introduction on who you are and what you do.
Well, Garrett, Steve, thank you all for the opportunity to be on here and to share what I do. But like you mentioned, I'm the business manager at BluePoint Financial, local CPA firm here located in Destin, Florida. Also the husband to Shannon. Shannon and I have 5 kids, Neelan, Bennett, Malachi, Ramsey, and Sawyer. Also finishing up my 9th year on the Fort Walton Beach City Council.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we can go on to other things. I really enjoy volunteering at Beachside Community Church. My wife and I have gone there for about 12 years. Really enjoy the middle school environment there as well. Yeah, try to stay engaged in the community while at the same time focusing in on the marketplace here at BluePoint.
It's awesome to hear. I guess we'll just jump right into it. You've worn a number of hats in the community. I mean, you just said you volunteer at your local church. You're on the city council for the last almost decade. You ran for a school board position. I mean, what keeps you so invested in this community?
Man, just faith, family, and community is everything to me. Faith, greatest commandments, relationships, loving Him and loving others. As far as staying invested, family, I'm just very fortunate by His grace that got a wife and 5 kids that I wake up to every day that motivate me to be better, to be more going towards any kind of goals we have or things that we'd like to accomplish. That motivates me as well. And outside of faith and family, it's community, that relationship with others. That is very important to me too. So those are the things that keep me going.
That's awesome. I guess talking about community, I mean, obviously you've been in part of the city council for 9 years. When you look back to kind of when you first got involved to today, what do you think's changed? And then what do you think still needs some work?
It's a great question. Always something to highlight, always something to improve. Some things that have changed. Well, 8 years ago, we didn't have a brand new bridge that was being built. That's one major change. And want to give a lot of credit to a lot of different stakeholders, whether it's, Ted Corcoran at the Chamber of Commerce, the previous city managers and previous councils before this one, as well as staff. But again, also the community we've all been very organized and continued to push the bridge that is now here. Other things that have changed over the 8 years, we're number 4 on the priority list with what's called the Around the Mound project. The Around the Mound project is going to create even more downtown vibrancy where, Highway 98 is going to be moving just north of the downtown, which is going to create a Main Street walkability canvas that hopefully, we have to be careful also too on making sure we preserve the identity and the culture that we're looking for, right? That word smart growth gets thrown out there quite a bit. But we really want to preserve that, nostalgic, but at the same time, that development of vibrancy so that we can not only attract talent, but hopefully keep talent to stay and be that destination location, So Around the Mound and the bridge are 2 things that are up there as far as big impacts go. I could go on other things on little impacts, just little investments that we've seen from shareholders that have changed some of the scope of our downtown and our commerce and technology park. A lot of those local businesses, guys like Dr. Paul Shu and others that have made significant investments over really a lot longer than the last 8 years, but a long list of people that have really dove in this last decade, and we're seeing some development continue because of that.
That's awesome. Out of curiosity, has there been any projects that you've been a part of, or at least maybe spearheaded that you were really passionate about that maybe have come to fruition or are still being worked on?
Yeah, I would put Around the Mound up there, as something that is still being worked on and will be worked on after my time. For an example, we got to try to get $250 million by 2028, to keep that progress going and being on a timeline, but to get to this point where we're at without going into much detail, I take a lot of pride on the effort that it took. Teamwork, not just me, but again, a lot of other stakeholders that have been pushing that project to get to where we're at now. Another project that might not hit the front page of anything, but the local Montessori school. Local Montessori school's been operating out of St. Simon's Episcopal Church, right there on the Sound, and the city had some land that it was looking to, or a lot of different land pieces and parcels that was looking to surplus. And one of the pieces of land that was a park in a residential neighborhood that was kind of gotten blighted over a period of time, able to work out a win-win situation with that institution and creating a larger capacity, a larger space for them to grow there and scale up their footprint, because there's a high demand and a waiting list to get inside of their education environment. But to be able to create that win-win and find a new school, and that they have purchased that land and getting ready to develop that school on that land would be a project. That would be the project.
That's awesome. And in during your time on the city council, has there been, I guess, some lessons that you've learned on really how local governments work, or maybe how they don't work?
Yeah, you got to get a majority of vote to go with you. You got to get support. Which is a very trying process for me. Probably the first 3 to 4 years. Just because you just didn't quite understand why other people thought the way they did. And whether it was about the popular millage rate, or the government spending, or whether or not youth should be charged for rec center memberships, whatever the it is, one thing learning was just, you got to be able to build that relationships with the others to ultimately find that majority support, but also too developing relationships with the community that's supporting something or maybe against something, but also developing that positive relationship with your CEO, with your city manager, which takes a lot of work, because you're representing the residents. That's your chain of command. That's your, let's say boss, but you're also too needing to work with the institution, staff leadership, and those people that help present and create the budget and create the recommendations that ultimately the governing board has to decide on. And if there's a contrast between what the residents are advocating for and that's a different direction than what staff is going, there's a due process and a lot of time that goes to trying to narrow that and to try to find those, I like to call, win-win situations that are out there quite a bit. So, and to stay away from being red-faced mad. When you get red-faced mad, you don't get anything accomplished. A mentor of mine shared with me about 10 years ago, don't ever get red-faced mad. I've done that pretty well of staying under composure. But those are some things that I've learned along the way, and I still got a lot of learning to do.
I always say that your city and local governments, you often feel the impacts of policies and projects a lot more than you would at the state or even federal level. Would you say you agree with that, or do you have any insight on that type of thought process?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I call it pothole politics. Those are the local governing bodies that are directly out there, filling up potholes, your parks, those kind of things that impact your water usage fees, your other franchise fees, those things that the millage rate, those things that are impacting your user every single day.
I was going to say, when we started the project, we met with all the different cities, both in Florida and Georgia. And one of the most animated and memorable meetings was with Fort Walton Beach. And we talked about Ted Corcoran, your Chamber of Commerce was there. You had your city managers were there. Your leadership was there, and I definitely felt like they had rolled out, the red carpet for us. Also, they talked about the Billy Bowlegs Festival, which maybe that sold me. I don't know. I thought it was great. Anyway, but you and I met through that process. Kind of once we launched, you and I had some conversations. Obviously, we're doing an underground construction project, and things get messy. But as you navigated this, you went from working on the city council to being a business manager at a local CPA firm. And I was going to ask kind of what's your perspective now you kind of see the full picture. What are these local businesses doing right? Where do you think they struggle now that you kind of have a different lens?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, if we rewind about 5 or 10 years ago, I think, Garrett, I'll add this to the list of some things that have changed over the years. But because of folks like Live Oak coming in, the community 5 or 10 years ago was crying for competition in the marketplace, begging for competition in the marketplace. And so some things that we've seen changes is now there's a lot of competition in this infrastructure marketplace. So seeing what the business side is advocating for is providing service, providing a product, doing it to the best of the ability that the end user will have with the product or with the service, while on the government side, still being able to advocate for those growing businesses, but having that fiduciary responsibility to represent the community, represent the neighborhood, and bridge some of those gaps, because definitely not Live Oak, but other competition and others, everyone's trying to get to the front. Everyone's trying to get as much of the service as possible. And what I mean by definitely not Live Oak, more specifically on, is just, not coming to a community, handling business and just saying bye. Live Oak has been phenomenal at making sure the task orders closed out right, making sure that it's put back in the right way. So it's that tough balance of advocating for small business and trying to get as much done as possible because of being a small business fan and how important it is to have small business meeting their goals, while at
Yeah.
the same time, trying to make sure that the residents get that service and get that product and the front yards put back right. So to answer your question, Steve, that was kind of the tough balance of advocating for business while also advocating, for the end user, the residents, y'all's customer.
I mean, and that kind of leads. I mean, you make me think about it's always a challenge, I think, in rural areas to balance growth and local character, because Fort Walton Beach is an older beach community. It's awesome. It's got the original donut shops. It's got all these unique small businesses. When you get over into some of the other parts, it's condos, and it's kind of driven towards that kind of Highway 98 vacation crowd. How do you balance that? I mean, how do you balance that growth, wanting the growth, but kind of maintaining the character? We kind of talked a little bit about it before we hit the record button.
Yeah. So short story, I'm a big fan of kind of watching from a distance what Pensacola has done. Guys like Quint Studer and some of those guys that have helped build a vibrant community, while at the same time there is that growth that's banging on our doors, right? So for an example, our downtown, it would be very easy to try to go up the max amount of heights as possible, and most developers would greatly appreciate that. But again, you got to find out what is your identity, what is your culture that you're looking for, and to make a connection. Fort Walton Beach does not want to be anything else but Fort Walton Beach. But for an example, there's communities like Alice Beach or Seaside that are in our demographic that their brand or their identity. They're not trying to build a whole bunch of parking garages and high rises to meet the demand of the growth. It's a certain culture and it's a certain identity that you want to try to capture. In Fort Walton, that's the culture and the identity that I'm advocating for, is that nostalgic and preserving that old Florida that you're never going to get back ever again once it's gone, while still advocating for that smart growth of getting infrastructure, getting bridges, getting roads, meeting the needs of our military community and our hospitality community and our different businesses, while at the same time, we're very fortunate. We're in a unique spot where Fort Walton's neighbored right next to Okaloosa Island. So let's be real, whether it's base realignment or folks that want to make decisions on where to move their businesses, they're attracted to this Emerald Coast. They're attracted to the beach. We're very fortunate to have roughly 7 miles of public beach, right next to downtown Fort Walton Beach to Okaloosa Island, where that 12-foot sidewalk, the bridge, is going to be connecting the beach to our downtown, but being very intentional on preserving what our identity wants to be, so that when staff is getting lobbied hard by different investors or contractors, they're very clear of knowing what our blueprints are and what direction we're trying to go.
There's some really cool redevelopment that's taking place down by the bridge. We talked a little bit about it, but I thought maybe you'd want to elaborate. The amphitheater, the food truck area. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's coming?
Absolutely. So a couple different catchphrases: turn downtown around, or Fort Walton Beach 2.0, however you want to look at it.
2.0. 2.0.
There we go. 2.0. Let's roll with that. So a lot of different projects, but one that is one that the taxpayers, I believe, are really, really proud about is the progress on the Fort Walton Beach Landing. Fort Walton Beach Landing is a large parcel, public park, that's located right on the Intracoastal. Those friends that are listening here that like to tour the Great Loop, or that just like to come from Destin or down the Intercoastal in Mary Esther and stop at downtown Fort Walton. But it's a beautiful park that's located right on the Intercoastal, that as a crow flies just a half a mile south, you see the Gulf as well. So the landing redevelopment with the new amphitheater, with our Friday night concerts in the park, brings a good quality of life and a good vibrancy of people that wanting to get out and enjoy that environment. But also too, you have investors and folks in our community, like Jamie Neighbors that is putting in their beach weekend brand, whether it's on the island or in Key West or in downtown Fort Walton Beach. But that redevelopment that you mentioned, Steve, is happening quite regularly. We also see some investors that they hadn't really broken ground yet, but there's a couple parcels recently that were acquired from some folks from Atlanta that are not quite sure what they're going to do with the acre and a half that they bought. So we have some that they don't want to be last, but they're also too trying to figure out what the next play is. We also recently had an acquisition downtown that is going to be right next to the landing. It was the old motels, that one-story motels that looked like they probably needed a new roof about 25 years ago. Fortunately, just got that acquisition recently where that local business person is going to complement the adjacent property that they own and build some more vibrancy there. But we got a new museum that's finishing up as we speak. That's going to be another new addition, another redevelopment as well. I could keep going on and on, but the vibrancy in Fort Walton Beach is very important, not just because I'm on council and I want to talk about the vibrancy of Fort Walton, but someone who is on council that gets paid nothing to do it, by the way. The conviction is to create a certain environment so that my kids and grandkids age group will either want to come back after they get out of the military or get out of college, or their friends and their parents will come and move here to try to establish a home, so that not only is it vibrant, but we need talent to help support the businesses and help support the different things that are necessary so businesses can be successful. It's like the whole chicken and egg thing. We can't have employers coming here if the talent's not here. We can't have talent if we don't have a vibrant community. So, those are some of the redevelopments.
That's awesome. And then, I mean, it is one of the larger military bases in the world. I think it's the largest. Eglin's the largest Air Force base in the world, and you have a lot of people coming off that base. Do you see, what efforts do you see to kind of retain those people in Fort Walton that you're aware of that maybe people don't know?
Yeah, the efforts, I want to commend really quick guys like Dr. Paul Shue. The efforts of building places and building spaces to, we have roughly 48% of folks that are getting out of the military and that are staying here, which is a huge statistic of talent.
40%.
48% is the information that I got of folks that when they are leaving one of these major institutions, Hurlburt Field, Eglin, Pensacola, Panama City, those Duke Field, those institutions, they're staying around here in this community. That's a pipeline of talent that not every community can access. So we're
Right.
very fortunate to have that military community that is training up the talent, and whether it's the soft skills, hard skills, all that stuff. But then you have organizations like Dr. Paul Shue that pride themselves on wanting to be the best neighbor to these military institutions, so that whether it's folks that are active and those private-public partnerships that are going on while they're active, or whether it's those people that as they leave the military, they go into those spaces and places that are continuing to grow around here where we need their talent to continue to build that product and to build that service that those guys like Dr. Paul Shue and their different organizations are doing. Another thing that we're doing, Steve, is I know I keep going back to this, but I'm going to go back to the infrastructure of the Around the Mound and the bridge. It's very important that we're hearing from our generals in DC that they don't like it whenever the base commander down here calls them and says, hey, we didn't make the mission because our guys from Freeport took 2.5 hours to get to Hurlburt. Or it took them a long time to get to, from Crestview south down to Hurlburt, or vice versa, from the south to the north. It goes both ways. But, traffic management is a huge priority, not just in Fort Walton, but around the region, because if we lose those kind of programs and if we lose that kind of talent in those military installations, it's not going to be good for most businesses.
And we have a lot of people that listen from New York, Atlanta, Denver, and Boston. And I will tell you, the traffic in Okaloosa County is a real thing. It's a real thing. He's not kidding. There's a limited amount of roads. There's a ton of people moving between the different locations in the area. And then, what do you think, David? It's like 20-something million visitors we get between Memorial and Labor Day, and we're glad to have them, but they chew up one of those major thoroughfares,
That's it.
big time.
Well, and to drill in a little bit deeper on that, let's go back to, traffic management and talent. I was talking to FDOT new district FDOT director, Tim Smith. And, recently their office talked about, it's not so much just the funding that the state or the feds have or don't have, depending on how high or how low the priority is, but a lot of it too goes back to talent. The contractors or the qualified contractors that could step in and be that bandwidth to help push those projects, whether it's major highways like Highway 98 or your other smaller roads that are back roads or things like that. But the Florida Department of Transportation all across the state has a large list of priorities of roads and interstates and different things that yes, are funded, but the more talent that we have and the more contractors that we have over the coming generations are only going to improve that quality of life. I know that's a phrase that gets thrown around easily, but we're talking about traffic management and how talent is directly impacting whether or not our roads are being built.
You may have just touched on it a little bit, but I was curious, when you get that feedback from, a general or someone that says, hey, we missed this mission because of traffic or things like that, does that get sent to you guys, city council or local governments, or does the state or federal level kind of jump in to be like, okay, how can we solve this? Because I imagine it's something like if the city or the county can't solve this traffic issue, then we will look elsewhere in terms of putting a base or this moving a special operations command out of the, yeah, like does that fall into your guys' shoulders to sort of fix, or is the state kind of help with that as well?
Yeah, great question. So it's really a partnership between the city, the county, the state, and the feds. So for an example, you might have a base commander at Hurlburt who is hearing from those generals a lot more regularly than I am, that's saying, hey, we got to get this fixed. Now, where do they go to advocate for it? Not just at your city councils or not just at your county commissions, but across the state of Florida, there's about 16 or 18 districts that are called the Transportation Planning Organization. So for an example, in this district, you got Okaloosa and Walton County. And that Transportation Planning Organization consists of about 15 board members that are either city council, county commissioners from Okaloosa and Walton. That board prioritizes all the different transportation projects in Okaloosa and Walton County. And think of that like a subcommittee to DOT. DOT is not going to really recognize those projects unless if the TPO is prioritizing and recognizing those projects. So you can best believe that Transportation Planning Organization hears regularly from either the consultants from Hurlburt and Eglin or the base commanders themselves on trying to help support how we fix the problem.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I imagine that because I mean, obviously, Okaloosa County, or I mean, maybe the whole Panhandle entirely, is very much a military and hospitality and tourism hotbed. So I guess the balance between appeasing them, but also growing other sectors of our economy to make sure that it is diverse, so it doesn't rely on one if one were to fail for a season or go away. I guess in your role, what do you do to try to combat that? What do you do to try to diversify our market to help, beyond those industries?
Yeah, the commerce technology part, is an area inside of our community that we can leverage to expand, but outside of hospitality and military. With the vision of hopefully a very small Silicon Valley type deal where it's not there now, but again, the vision of a lot of software development and a lot of spaces of software and some manufacturing and those kind of things, so that we can continue to boost our economy and higher skilled and higher wage jobs, so that whether it's hospitality that could have its different pros and cons and different trends throughout the 10, 20 years, or whether it's the military that has its base realignment and closure that could add to us or it could take us away. But that third leg to the bar stool, we have to continue to growing that capacity and a lot of that software manufacturing down here in Fort Walton. Up on the north end, our friends up there, kind of more of that harder manufacturing out there at the ranch on the north end of the county, where there's a lot of space that different manufacturing places are going to be plowing into to hopefully again grow our opportunities for higher skill and higher wage jobs, so that we're just not relying on hospitality and military as much as we need those.
Yeah, and then I guess to follow up that with that in mind, do you see that there is a lot more collaboration from maybe when you started with City Council and especially maybe at BluePoint Financial? Is there a lot more collaboration between businesses and local governments, or do you still think there's a gap that needs to be filled?
There'll always need to be more collaboration between business and government. We could talk about a lot of the challenges, but the biggest challenges is just accessibility, of connecting with the busy business marketplace and, the 8.5% of folks who show up and turn out and vote in your local municipal elections. Bridging that gap between accessing the marketplace and hearing what the challenges are from the builders, hearing what the challenges are from the folks laying cable inside the ground or any sector. It's getting that access and connecting, because that that presentation or that collaboration that Steve mentioned a little while ago, I'd like to say I had just a little part of it, but being able to collaborate between staff and between the business and having to figure that out, that may not have happened if there's not that access between the elected official and the business, as well as the elected official and the staff. But there always will need to be continuous improvement on that category of connecting with business and government.
You mentioned Paul Shue. Are there any other kind of influencers or mentors of yours here in the Fort Walton Beach area that you want to call out that are still active or not even active?
Yeah, wow. Man, guys that stay quiet, those are most of the mentors that I stick around. But, guys like Ray Sansom, he still is a big mentor of mine. Had a chance to work underneath him for 10 years as a principal. But also too, he's been a big mentor of me in the policy world as well. He was a former Speaker of the House in the state of Florida, and so got a chance to learn a lot in different capacities, whether it's education, public service, or just being a better husband or a better parent. Guys like Gene Barker, Bob Bennett, Jay Odom, guys like Jay Odom that over the last 20 or 30 years, they've pushed to make this area better. And sometimes in leadership, you get a lot of constructive feedback and a lot of criticism.
Or maybe just feedback, David. Maybe just give feedback. Whether it's constructive might just be, subjective. No.
That's it. That's it. But those kind of guys, Luke Smith, Jamie Neighbors, those guys that are continuing to lead and get things done, regardless of what the pushback is. I would like to just again shout out to some of those guys, and I'm probably leaving off a lot too, but those guys are getting things done in the community, regardless of what the pushback or the politics are, and learned a lot from them. We're not always going to make those people on Facebook happy. You know what I mean? We're not always.
I feel you on that one.
That's it.
What's your all right? So someone's coming to Fort Walton Beach. What's a favorite local hangout that you like that maybe people don't know about? And I know I'm basically telling you to tell us where your secret hideout is, but
all right. Well, if anybody wants to come to 17 Okahatchee, my back porch, that's where I'm at quite a bit. But outside of the back porch, no, all seriousness, if you go downtown and if you're looking for a nice dinner, go to Ollie's Bistro. Very good dinner there. If you're looking for some live music or a vibe that you can have a meal or have an adult beverage or an iced tea, places like the Boardroom, Woodfoot. So hopefully when you're in the back of Woodfoot, you're overseeing the landing. But those are a couple spots. The Downtown Music Hall, Jake and Henry's. Those are a few places that Beach Weekend Coffee.
Beach Weekend Coffee. Do not take their boats. They will come find you. Even if you drive them to Cuba, they will track you down.
They will find you. They are serious about their coffee,
and they'll record the whole
boats.
thing. Yeah,
and they'll record the whole thing. The Florida Place food trucks is a really neat vibe too. And that's what's so neat about this conversation right here that we're having about the different unique places to go to. 5 or 10 years ago, there were sweet people like Candace Tanner, who I call the queen of downtown. She's I'll leave off her age, but she's a senior that has given us a lot of, like you said, feedback over the years, not always constructive. But 8 to 10 years ago is very non-constructive. But over the past 2 or 3 years, it's been neat to see the evolution of our downtown, where there's still a perspective that people have about Fort Walton that haven't been there lately that will always be the perspective of, man, that's the place where vagrants hang out. And it's unfortunate to even talk about that sometimes on these kind of platforms, but just to be real and to be transparent, that's a perspective a lot of people have in Destin, Seaside, and Walton County about Fort Walton is tattoo parlors and homeless people. To make that shift and to do that in a positive way, or as positive as you possibly can, has been very trying. But some of these redevelopments that we just quickly listed, thanks to them, has kind of created that vibrancy where it's easier to push off those people that are your vagrants. And what I mean by push off is the city of Fort Walton Beach wants to continue to have a culture of, if you need help and you want help, there's not a more helping community.
I agree with that.
But if you're consistently doing things that are breaking the law and you're not wanting help, we're trying to protect the quality of life for those parents that are trying to use the park, for those parents that are trying to go to the museums and those things. So those are some of the redevelopments, Steve, that I mentioned, that the vibrancy is upticking in the city of Fort Walton Beach.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that the city got proactive on the homeless issue with the One Hopeful Place, which is, as I understand it, is a great organization and is going pretty well. It's been around. What is it been? Is it just about 2 years, David, that place has been up, or is it just a year?
Oh,
not
Steve,
long.
They've recently had some developments the past couple years that have added on to it, but they have leased that property from the city for close to about 8 to 10 years. I could be a little bit wrong on my math there, but yeah, it's a good partnership between the city and One Hopeful Place. The city owns the land, and One Hopeful Place is that place where, again, if you need help and you're wanting help, we have community policing and other organizations that will help you get there. The ones who don't want help, we're not wanting to be a community that's creating an enabled environment that, let's not to get too much on this topic on here, but it's a passionate topic of mine. But other communities, we have documentation to substantiate other communities to the far west and east and north of us. They're saying, hey, there's this community in Fort Walton that has a lot of these services. We'll drop you off here in this downtown or this environment. Best of luck.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for those other communities that don't want them there and they drop them off in our environment. But if you want help, we're here to help you. If you're not wanting help, we're going to make it hard for you to want to stay here.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think in a rural community, there are no bench riders, as I like to say. Some people are playing the offense and defense. There's nobody sitting on the bench. You can't go to a small community and say, oh, I think I'll just watch. You pretty much have to participate. There's no hiding. It's not like a larger city where you can just kind of observe things. You're going to
got to participate.
You got
to engage. And to kind of give some credit to our CEO, let me give him a shout out real quick to kind of drill in and tell a story. Participate in leadership, boots on the ground. He started in June. And we actually coincidentally met downtown when I was going to the farmer's market, and he was there just enjoying a Saturday morning downtown. 2 exhibits, 2 cases. We had, whenever we were going to the farmer's market, unfortunately, there was a guy that was laying there probably from the night before that both me and the city manager went to go evaluate, and really long story short, he got up foaming at the mouth, really angry, really mad, and he slowly walked out of the community, and we stopped walking. And then on our way back, there was a homeless person on the corner, asking for money. We go evaluate that situation. He's saying all the right things. He's wanting help. He's not foaming at the mouth. He said he was promised some work when he got here. And when he got here, he can't connect with the person that he was supposed to be working with. Whether he was telling us the truth or not, point I'm getting to is that exhibit, our city manager connected with the community police, that One Hopeful Place opportunity, went out there and had a chance to shower up, and he ended up getting reconnected with his mother back in Texas. So back to being involved and participating and engaging in leadership, you have a CEO that's out there that is doing a good job of not only the narrative, but the contrast between the people who are committing crimes and that are passed out in front of a farmer's market where people of all ages are getting ready to go and patronize and enjoy a Saturday morning. And then you have the guy that just is short on some luck, that's wanting help, that's wanting to get engaged. And you have a city manager out there that's leading by example so that when the community police show up, they're like, oh, wait, our CEO's out here evaluating things. If the standard's here, reality is always going to be a little bit lower than the standard. But if expectations here, reality be a little bit lower here. Leadership, getting involved, it's great to see. It's great to see.
That's awesome. Well, if there's one thing about our community from the outside that people don't know about, what would you say it is? If they should know about something, what should they know about Fort Walton Beach?
Just the amount of water access that a lot of people don't know about Fort Walton Beach. It's very easy to talk about the Gulf, but just to kind of drill in a little bit deeper, it's something to not only promote, and obviously it'll probably attract more talent, but a lot of people understand the best kept secret of the multiple bayous that we have, the Choctawhatchee Bay, the intercoastal waterway. You got your creeks and rivers that aren't too far as well. But Fort Walton Beach is surrounded by a lot of public water access and a lot of still water or water that doesn't have current or much current. So whether you're fishing, whether you're just hunting for hermit crabs, or you're just looking to escape where you can talk to your wife without the kids right in front of you, just a lot of places and public areas. Just in our neighborhood, we got 2 public boat launches, that folks can take their boat to go launch and to access the water very, very quickly. So a lot of people don't know about that in Fort Walton. They don't know about also too the 18-hole Frisbee golf course, as well as the 16 pickleball courts that we have. So
Pickleball. Goodness. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah, I would say on the boats. Yeah, I would, pickleball, I actually thought they invented it in Colorado as a way for us to have gym class when I was in high school, and they made it up. They made it like it snowed on Tuesday, and then Wednesday they're like, hey, we're going to play this thing called pickleball. And then it went away. I'm updating myself, but then 40 years later, it's out of control. They're converting large retail spaces everywhere to indoor pickleball. Yeah, I guess Coach Moose from Cherry Creek High School did not. Sally Moose, if you're listening, I gave you credit up until probably a month ago. I don't think you invented pickleball.
See, I thought it was just lazy tennis.
Maybe it's lazy tennis. Exactly. Yeah.
But water access really is the main thing. Quick story real quick about, the BluePoint, our founder here at BluePoint, when he graduated from Auburn, I believe in 2005 or 2006, him and a close friend came down here and they were getting some sun on their arm in December, and while eating at a local restaurant. And, back to God's resources and God's, amenities, those things attracted talent. Here we are, that was now 20 years later, happily married, and he's got 2 beautiful young boys, and now starting a firm roughly 10 years ago and employing people and providing services that are impacting roughly, 1,200 clients in the area. All came from someone having lunch after college in 2005 with a friend while getting sun in December means, hey, maybe we should hang out here a little bit longer, and here we are. So water access and again, just God's given resources.
The water access. Go ahead, G.
Oh no, I was going to jump into a different subject, sort of. So I'll let you finish yours, and I'll talk.
I was going to say, so on the water access, there's an app called Boat Setter, like SETTER, and I found this app, and I booked a couple really short fishing trips with this app on the bay. Well, anyway, what's cool about it is you basically put in what you want, and you're exactly right. There's so much access to water. every time I've used it, the captain's like, just tell me, you connect with the boat captain or boat owner, and he's like, just tell me where you're located and I'll meet you. And that's all you do. You just drop the pin and you show up, and you're exactly right, David. There are so many boat access, and the guy rolls up and you fish for 2 hours in the you would say still water. I would say safe water because you can see the land. But yeah, awesome. Like lights out. And there's a ton of access there for that.
And those
You're
are
right.
the things that it doesn't matter where you're at in the economic scale. You know, there's people that we come across at some of those water access spots, you know, whether it's the corner of Brook Street and Bay Street, or whether it's Liza Jackson Park or many other places. You know, just yesterday at sunset, you see a couple kids out there fishing with their 5-gallon bucket, you know, and you might see some parents or some people that are bringing their 60-foot Bertram to anchor out and do some fishing in the bayous. But water access brings a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, and now how we steward and how we broker those relationships is what I like to do.
Yeah, I was going to jump into, I'm glad you brought up BluePoint, because I feel like we've talked a lot about your time and your role as a city council member. So I want to give you the opportunity real quick to talk about BluePoint and your position there, and kind of like what you do that benefits your clients or the people you can work with.
Yeah, you know, being the business manager here, you know, owned by Luke Smith, who again found this firm about 10 years ago and has really leaned in hard. And, you know, we're in a season right now where not scaling up just to scale up, but scaling up so that we can add more value and impact more people. And when you scale up, there's a fine line between what is your purpose of scaling up, right? You know, and not that all those reasons are necessarily bad things, you know, whether it's your revenue or your profits or all those are things that are necessary to discuss, but wanting to impact more people and wanting to impact more businesses so that we can add value to what service or what product they provide so that hopefully they can scale up and impact more people. So at BluePoint, we not only do the things that are statutorily required for businesses to, you know, whether it's filing their 1120S or their 1065 partnership or whatever that may be, or their monthly accounting services or the sales tax filings or the different required things that need to be filed. But what we like to pride ourselves on is being in that posture where we can advise. Advise meaning those quarterly meetings that sometimes the busy business owners don't always make, but we try to make sure that the public accounting firm and the busy business owner or designee is making, because there's so much value that's left on the table through being proactive. A lot of businesses don't always have that posture of being proactive. Sometimes we deal with 11th hour businesses and we get their reactive posture, and we'll handle those as well. But we want to try to continue to get businesses in that proactive posture so that when they get in that proactive posture, they're able to receive some of that added value and having their projections and having their planning and adding that value through advice. So that's a lot of what we do here at BluePoint Financial.
Well, Steve, do you have any other questions for David?
No, I think this has been great. I think I appreciate you making time to be on here, David, and we'll be talking again, I'm sure. And thanks for sharing your perspective on the local community and some of the things that are coming up. So we should do this again in like 6 months and see where some of these things are.
I love it. Well, thank you all again for the opportunity to speak about these things that my wife hears about all the time, and it's nice to speak to an audience that also enjoys hearing some of these things. But Fort Walton Beach 2.0, as well as BluePoint Financial, if any of those two organizations, if there's anything any of those two organizations can do to add value to your life, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Absolutely. I was going to say, Steve, 6 months from now is just after tax season, so you might need a month to recover after that too.
Well, that's true. We'll schedule it for late May.
Let's do it
after Memorial
Let's
Day.
do it. And if I
Early
haven't heard
June,
from
how about that?
if I haven't heard from Garret by March or April, I'll reach out to you and stay connected, because we haven't really gotten too much into the education piece.
No,
we didn't.
Which is huge when it comes to connecting talent. And, talent and education is so directly connected, and we're very blessed in this community with a lot of education institutions. But yeah, let's talk more education and how that's connected to talent.
Sounds good.
Well, Steve, thank you. David, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will definitely get you back on in say May timeframe, give or take. But
Awesome.
yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
Thank you for tuning into The Fiber. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. If you want to learn more about Live Oak Fiber, visit us at liveoakfiber.com.